upstate South Carolina. Welcome in. The midweek edition of the Rob Brown Show is in your ear holes now. Welcome in, folks. Great to be with you. Happy Wednesday, y'all. Everybody doing all right? Everybody having a lovely week so far? We're halfway through. Yeah? We're halfway through. We got a lot going on. Hey, real quick, because I know that he's listening, how about a massive congratulations, Zoe, to the seductive voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. Mark Shelley's a dad as of yesterday at 4 p.m.
He's handing it off to me because yeah.
I'm super happy for him.
So am I. It is. They say it will change your life. It will in a lot of different ways.
I have no doubt.
And as someone who never had a chance to connect with his own father, the biggest dream in my life was to have a child, and now I have two, and they grew up and they're good people, and it's just awesome.
And yours turned out pretty good too.
Yeah,
I know Shelley's will. Shelley's kid's got if nothing else, a power PR team behind him when he grows up, right? I mean, a power PR team. But no, congratulations to Mark Shelley and the person who actually did all the work, his lovely bride, Ashley, who's a doll. Super, 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 super happy for them. Congratulations. And, of course, it's a little late. But Timmy V, the GM of the Bits, or a new dad as well, had his baby a couple of, I guess about a month and a half ago. So congratulations. Look at that. I got to tell you, they're breeding like rabbits over there. See what because it's.
Yeah, I also appreciate you trying to change my mood. It's not going to work, but, that's all right. Lorenzo is in the building.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lorenzo is back. Hudson popping to the stream to say, sup, nerds. Sup, dog. Welcome in. We got a stock locked and loaded for you. Show for you. I forgot a word there. A stocked, locked, and loaded show for you today. Lamar Jackson is kind of dominating the NFL news landscape right now. Well, that's more than fair, right? He's the best quarterback available. There are concerns, etc.
I wouldn't say he's the best quarterback. The best quarterback available is Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, he's a strong number two, I suppose.
I don't know what let me rephrase that. The strongest candidate to add to your quarterback room is Lamar Jackson, right? Because Lamar's got another, hopefully, 5, 6, 7 years in him. You know what by the way, we found out yesterday, you know what the snag is that's holding up the trade between the Jets and the Packers? You know what the holdup is right now? The Jets are apparently willing to acquiesce to the request of the Green Bay Packers, but apparently the Jets are asking for return compensation if Aaron Rodgers decides not to play next season. So basically they've said, look, we'll give you what you want. We're happy to give you what you want. But if Aaron Rodgers comes in and only plays 1 year, we want some of it back, right? Which again, I mean, I would say that's fair unless Aaron Rodgers only agrees to a 1-year contract. But he's under contract. He's under contract for 2. So if he decides to retire next year, the Jets want more back. That's why I say Lamar is the most sought after. Well, that's not true.
Okay, come on.
That's not true at all.
Come on.
Because there's at least one team that wants Aaron Rodgers right now. Which, by the way, y'all know how I feel about the Atlanta Falcons as a football team. But
as a Panthers fan, I'm pretty happy with the announcement yesterday.
Y'all know how I feel about the Falcons as a football team. Big Arthur Blank guy, though. And that's not sarcasm. I truly, genuinely respect Arthur Blank as an owner. I think Arthur Blank has done more to make the Falcons the most fan-friendly football team in the entire National Football League.
How come he can go on the sideline and no one makes a big deal out of it? But if Jerry Jones is down there, it's big news.
Two reasons. One, JJ has proven over and over that he thinks he's the smartest football guy. Actually, that's not true. JJ thinks he's just the smartest guy in any room he walks into and refuses to do anything except I'm right. And if I'm wrong, it's because somebody else screwed it up. A. B, because Arthur Blank could be doing a lot more to make a bigger buck off his fans, but he has done everything he can to make Mercedes-Benz Stadium family and fan-friendly, unlike JJ, who nickels and dimes you for everything you can get. I've told you the story about the time I met JJ, right? I met JJ in an elevator at the Senior Bowl.
Tried to get you to buy tickets.
And merch. Despite the fact that I told him to his face, I'm a Saints fan, he's like, well, that's all right, son. You don't have to be a Cowboys fan to come see the beautiful new stadium. Buy you some season tickets. I'm sure you got friends and family who are Cowboys fans, right?
So a billionaire or whatever he is trying to make sales, and you got a problem with that. I just don't.
No. There's a difference between making sales and a difference between never turning it off. Which I guess you kind of have to if you're going to be a billionaire. You just can't turn it off. But that's another discussion. Point is, Arthur Blank goes out of his way to make it fan and family friendly in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So as far as I'm concerned, it gets a bit of a pass. That being said, old Arthur Blank yesterday decided that he was going to talk about the reason that ATL went ham in the quest for Deshaun, but is avoiding even having the discussion about Lamar Jackson, and I find his reasons to be lacking.
All right, couple of years ago, if you had a choice between Lamar and Deshaun, who you taking?
Couple of years ago?
Yes.
Deshaun.
Any day, because he's a better quarterback. All around, he's a better quarterback.
Don't know if I go quite that far as to say all around.
All right. You're right. Lamar's a better runner.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So there's that. But Deshaun is a more complete quarterback. Coming out of college, he was ready to go. Unfortunately, he went to Houston and then he did some
stuff,
some things that got him in the news. And he probably shouldn't be in the NFL, but he still is. So I mean, that's how that goes. But as far as play on the field, I think most people would have picked Deshaun Watson over Lamar Jackson.
I think 2 years ago you were correct. And I think if Lamar Jackson didn't have, we've said injury concerns, and that's fair. I still honestly believe that Lamar sitting out the back end of last year was more to prove a point. Now, he has tweeted about that over the past 24 hours and said that he would rather not play than play on a PCL that wasn't 100% because he felt like playing on a busted leg would have given his guys a lesser chance to win, which anybody remember who Baltimore rolled out as quarterback after he went down last year? Yeah, exactly.
There were multiples, weren't there?
I'm not even kidding you. I am the talk show radio show host. I don't remember. I honestly don't. Who quarterbacked Baltimore into the end of the season last year? Anybody remember?
Colt McCoy.
Was it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let's see. Baltimore Ravens, week 17.
Cade
stats.
McNown.
Get your guesses in now. Who quarterbacked the Ravens in the week 17 game? In the week 17 game, they played the Steelers. Anybody remember? I don't.
Hudson says TJ Huntley.
It was Tyler Huntley.
Okay. But
yes.
He threw in the TJ to make it look like he didn't look it up. That's what he did. No, man, I knew that.
The point is here. I'm not saying that Lamar's lying. I'm just telling you, there were a lot of folks coming out saying Lamar should be ready to go. And Lamar was the only one saying he's not, but he's his own agent. So that obviously makes sense. Arthur said something to the tune of, it's really just the injury concerns that are keeping them off of Lamar Jackson, right? It's the injury concerns, and that's fair. I think Lamar is doing himself no good. I think, again, like I said, I don't have any reason to believe this, so I'm going against my philosophy and pretty much all of life at this point by saying I really think Lamar was sitting out at the end of last year because he was trying to prove a point to Baltimore. You can't do it without me. Not right now. You might be able to down the road, but right now, I'm a $200 million man, and you're not coming off of it. And I think that's hurting him just a little bit. I think his tweets, I think him taking this so publicly are hurting him a little bit. Also, I saw something.
He should have learned from KD and got some burner accounts going,
right,
in his favor, and then no one would know it was him.
Right. Be smart about it, man. Be smart about it. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later on in the show, for sure, because I'm very interested in all of this. I'm interested in Lamar's actions. I'm interested in what Arthur Blank had to say about the reason that the Falcons were all in for Deshaun. Because here's the thing. What would concern you more as an NFL franchise owner? 24+ sexual assault lawsuits or 5 missed games due to a busted knee? And that, I'm not saying that like, oh, one of them is obviously the right answer, because clearly it's not. There were 5 teams at the minimum gunning for Deshaun Watson. There seemed to be 0 gunning for Lamar Jackson. My thought...
Maybe you can also blame Deshaun Watson for that because of what Cleveland gave him. And the owners are like, nah, you know what? That's too much. I can't do that.
To me, I don't think, because remember, all of the players and some former players and whatnot came out not too long ago and were like, oh, the NFL owners are all colluding with each other. That's why nobody's signing this cat, right? And I thought to myself, like, yes, that's a possibility. I agree it's a possibility that they got a group chat going on that they all delete at the end of the night.
Can you and I, and let's say we bring Chris in because we were just chatting about stuff. Can the 3 of us look at a situation without talking to each other and come up with the same conclusion?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
I think that it is absolutely possible that 31 other owners in the National Football League have a text thread going down where they're like, 30 other owners, because Baltimore's out and Cleveland's out, but 30 other owners are in there going, bleep the Browns. We're not doing that. Nobody signed this guy, so we control the market. But I also think it's entirely possible that 30 other owners who have never talked to each other about this all go, yeah, I can't pay a quarter bill for a quarterback. I don't care who it is. The Haslams are idiots. Nobody else is. Because remember, if you're a quarterback, it only takes one team to be willing to sign you to a contract, right? If one team over the next 17 days before the first NFL teams start their spring camps, if one NFL team goes, you know what? We're not getting a quarterback in the draft. We're real close, but not close enough. We need a QB. Screw it. Let's give Lamar $215 for 5 years, guaranteed, which is about what he's looking for, I think. Then Lamar's got a contract and all this is moot. But again, you've got the stats that point out that paying a quarterback 20+% of your salary cap statistically does not work out. In fact, not only statistically, it does not work out unless your quarterback's Patrick Mahomes. He's the only guy that has accomplished a Super Bowl while making more than 20% of the salary cap. So I don't think the owners need to collude for all of them to go, yeah, we can't give $225 million to one guy because that doesn't win you Super Bowls unless you got Patrick Mahomes. And while I absolutely think Lamar Jackson's one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league, he ain't Patrick Mahomes right now. We'll come back to that later on in the show. But I do want to, when we come back here in just a minute, take on what I find to be a relatively interesting discussion about sports media. 2 days ago, Dan Le Batard hosted Stephen A. Smith on his podcast. And they butted heads a little bit. Now, ordinarily, I don't super get into it when Stephen A. Smith butts heads with somebody because I truly believe 90% of what he says to bust heads is scripted. But him and Le Batard got into a little bit, and it felt genuine to me. And if it wasn't genuine, they did a good enough acting job to convince me it was. But I think it's more reflective of the state of how we get and consume our sports news, media, and information than it is about two big name guys butted heads. I'm going to play you a clip from their interview, and then I genuinely want your thoughts, and we'll do that next. My name is Rob Brown. The great one, Lonzo, is over there on the other side of the metaphorical glass. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, good morning, everybody. Hudson, Josh, whoever else is in here. Oh, sorry, Skrilla. I don't know why I called you Josh. That's not your name.
It says Josh on there. I see Josh right there.
Hey, it's Rob Brown from the Rob Brown Show. Listen, are you wishing that you had sold your home a few years ago? Are you worried that maybe you missed getting the best price for your home and a nice little jump on getting into your dream home next? Well, do not worry about it. It is not too late. Even with interest rates a little higher, home values are normalizing, and it is still an excellent time to list your home for sale and find your next home too. With an Allen Tate Realtor by your side, you'll have the experience and the expertise you need to navigate today's market dynamics and successfully achieve your real estate goals. So you can move into a place that's better suited to you and your family. You can get the most money out of your current home. Don't wait any longer. Call an Allen Tate Realtor or visit allentate.com today to get the best price for your home and get into that home you've always wanted. It is time to get moving with Allen Tate Realty. NCAA Final Four spot. Here's Jackson.
Apologize for my lack of speaking, but dealing with things elsewhere in the building.
So,
my brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month.
I was scrolling my Facebook memories today. And number one, 1 year or two today was the AEW show in Columbia, so I hope they come back soon. And B, 5 years ago today was the greatest remote I've ever had. Was at a bar. It was the year that it may have been longer than that. Anyway, it was the year that the Tiger Woods Masters Edition came out. First time you could play Augusta. And a bar hired me for release day, bought me the game, brought me to their bar, plugged my Xbox 360 up to a 160 some odd inch projection screen TV, and basically had people come in, play me in one hole of Tiger Woods at the Masters. And if they beat me, they got a free beer. And I sat at a bar for 8 hours playing video games on a 160 inch projector TV and got paid for it.
I hear Cameron in my head right now. Yeah, but the FPS was just probably horrible on that.
Well, it was a golf game, so.
So how clear was it though? With the 360 on the screen, like I get what you're saying.
It was solid.
But you look at golf games now where they look
they're
very realistic to that degree.
I haven't bought a golf game. You know what? I haven't bought an EA Sports game in a while because they.
You know what? We haven't tried. There's a projector screen in this building, and we haven't tried playing a video game on it.
Projector screen where?
In the main conference room.
I thought that was just a big ass TV. Isn't it just a giant TV? I mean, it's a big TV. We should absolutely go play video games in there.
It's a computer hooked up to it. The screen comes down. So if the computer can be hooked up Video game could be hooked up.
You know what we might also do? Well, no, I was going to say maybe we start playing D&D down there at that big table. But I think the setup we've put together in the upstairs room is pretty solid.
Plus we need room
Yeah.
and space for people who get heated to be able to walk away. That room down there is there's not enough. It's too boardroom looking.
I'm going to go to that Le Batard clip here, obviously.
Okay.
The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. I'm Rob Lonzo, the executive producer and co-host on the other side of the metaphorical glass. You guys know that I have some pretty strong feelings about the direction of sports broadcasting in this country. Now, I've also said many times that I watch anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of wrestling a week. So I'm not really in a position where I get to judge what anyone else is for, where I get to judge what anyone else enjoys for their entertainment purposes. But at the same time, I feel like that is because in general entertainment, there's no max capacity, right? If you like nerd stuff, there's a whole universe of nerd stuff, and nerd stuff doesn't take away from documentaries, and documentaries don't take away from sitcoms, and sitcoms don't take away from rom-coms. There's room for all of it. But in sports broadcasting, there's a limited market out there. There's only so many places that you can go. And I think the rise in podcasting, despite the fact that whether we like it or not, absolutely does chew into traditional outlets like ours. Although we're busting it to try to continue to grow in that room. Please follow the Fan Upstate on YouTube. The new YouTube channel is up. I think that when it comes to the main markets, the main networks, the places that are the most readily available nationally, there has been a problem with the Hot Take Express, right? When I get here in the AM and I turn on the television in the morning to start watching the prep, right? The morning shows to see if I missed anything overnight, which I did last night because I stayed up to watch the Pelicans blow a 17-point lead to the Warriors in the second half, the team that they were tied for to get out of the play-in tournament and into a locked-in playoff position. That's another segment. I turn on the television, and what do I see? It's just all debate shows about hot takes, and it's the same couple of topics. And there are a couple of broadcasters that I have placed the fault on for that. Respectfully, Stephen A. Smith is one of them. Dan Le Batard had Stephen A. Smith on his podcast either yesterday or the day before. I'm not sure. Le Batard, of course, used to work for ESPN back in the day. In fact, you're going to hear Stephen A. Smith point out that Le Batard's kind of part of the reason, too. He was the first one on Around the Horn, one of the first contributors to Around the Horn. Now, of the debate shows, I haven't watched it, I'm not going to lie to you, in a number of I was going to say months, maybe years. At the beginning of Around the Horn, I really liked it. Because when they had Tony Reale hosting it, I don't know if he still is. But if you expressed a hot take that was a bad hot take, it's the only debate show I'm aware of where they just muted you. That take's ridiculous. You're muted. You can't talk anymore. Which is great. It was the equivalent of the host changing the channel if the contributor said something dumb. So I give it a little bit of forgiveness. It was also one of the first ventures into the debate format. No, I don't have a problem with the debate format. The problem is debate formats on television now get rid of all nuance, right? It's like I have to take extreme position X, you have to take the exact opposite, and never the twain shall meet, which I don't like. Anyway, Stephen A. Smith went on Le Batard's show, and they had this little exchange. Dan Le Batard, to me, nailed it there. Now, I can't dismiss that there are clearly a lot of people out there who prefer entertainment over anything else. And I'm not saying that there can't or should not be some level of debate or conflict in this arena, in this atmosphere, in this environment. If you listened to the show yesterday, you know that even Lonzo and I are not immune to getting into it every now and then.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
Yeah. And I there's absolutely room for debate and conflict. But I think it goes out the window when you start getting rid of the actual conversations that need to be happening in favor of contrived discussion for the sake of a fight, for the sake of debate, right? I absolutely think there's a conversation to be had, for instance, about Lamar Jackson. Lonzo and I had one in the last segment. Deshaun or Lamar. Pre-Deshaun's issues off the field, who would have been more valuable? But the reason that comes up isn't because we needed a reason to headbutt each other. It was because in the face of Arthur Blank's comments as the owner of the Falcons, and a discussion about why Atlanta would not go after Lamar but did go after Deshaun, that conversation makes sense. But I think that Skip and Steve are two guys that kind of started us down this road. They're not the only ones guilty of it. But I think it has created this atmosphere where it's less about talking about sports in a way that engages everybody and more about what if we just come up with the most contrived positions we can that are diametrically opposed to each other and then butt heads for 10 minutes, reset, and do it again. And Le Batard called Stephen A. Smith out, and he's like, no, I'm a journalist. No, dude. No, you're not.
All right. The problem I have with this is before there was Stephen A. Smith, before there were any of these guys, there was sports talk radio. And everything that you're talking about was already happening on sports talk radio. All they did was bring it to TV. That's all they did. That's all they brought radio to TV. And I don't have a problem with debate stuff. I don't have a problem with occasional hot takes as long as the entire show is not that. I think we have a pretty good mix here of fun and debate.
Sir, I don't do hot takes.
Yeah, well,
all my takes are perfect.
All I do is troll. So if you want to take that as a hot take, you can. I try to, for the most part, think out what I say, even though sometimes it may not sound like it. But there are shows that's all there is. But I think you're blaming these two guys for just bringing radio to TV. That's all they did. I mean, imitators. That's where an entire industry was built, whether you like this side of the aisle or not, because of Rush Limbaugh. He came out, did things a certain way, and then suddenly, imitators, but an entire industry was built because of that.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
And kind of they did this too, but they didn't because it already existed on radio.
So I have two responses to that. You talk about Rush? Absolutely. Absolutely. My dad worked for a news talk station down in Florida. It's where I got I didn't get my start in radio. It's where I was exposed to radio because my dad did it on what was the call? 1260 AM down in Destin, Florida. Was the news talk station. My dad was on the air down there. Now he did a morning show that was primarily based on finance and financial news and all that, but he was on that station. Rush was there. And the reason that people are conflicted on Rush Limbaugh is because you don't have to like this, but Rush Limbaugh was inflammatory more than informational a lot of the time. Now, I'm not saying he didn't have information on the show, obviously did, but he was inflammatory as much as he was anything else.
But you know what he did? He did the thing that we strive to do.
Entertain.
The people who loved him. The people who hated him, but they listened to him because they hated him.
I don't disagree. That's not the crux of the argument. The crux of the argument is when you do that, when it becomes more about entertaining, and I'm talking about The Greatest Showman here, when it becomes more about entertaining to the point that you are starting to take people's, and this is going to be dramatic for a sports talk element, but I'm sticking with it. When you start dismissing people's actual knowledge and well-being and betterment in the favor of entertaining, even if it makes the conversation worse in the name of entertainment, to me, that's bad, right? So the problem that I have, and I understand it, you're right, it's always been on radio. It really has. I look at guys like Francesca and Mad Dog, a 50-year-old man who refers to himself as Mad Dog.
Your boy Mad Dog.
Who you're right, they've always been this way. It's always been, I'm angry about this dumb thing that I watched the other day Mad Dog do on ESPN. And again, I'm breaking my cardinal rule, which is if you don't like him, ignore him. But I can't for the sake of this conversation. I watched Mad Dog go on an unhinged rant on ESPN. You know what he was mad about? We had just had a wonderful TPC, a great golf tournament if you're into that, at the TPC Sawgrass. He got mad, though, because the guy who won TPC and walked away with a $5 million check had the audacity to fly coach on his way home from the tournament. Mad Dog screamed into the camera for 4 minutes about an athlete flying coach. And that was what they considered the most productive use of their time in sports entertainment in that moment, was to let Russo go unhinged because a golfer flew coach.
And the elitists who are behind him believe if you have money, you shouldn't fly coach. We're probably right there with them going, yeah, why would you do that?
It ain't your money. It ain't your flight, bro.
You're right. He saved money by doing that. That's a good move.
It ain't your money.
Getting on a plane, period, is a no-go for me. But if I were, I would go with the cheapest way to go.
My old man told me, when you get money, don't change nothing. If you want to keep that money, don't change nothing. Right? Now,
someday,
I've never listened to that.
But someday you'll get there where you have money and you're like, ooh,
Oh, my man. I'd fly first class everywhere if I had the money. But that's not the point.
I've seen videos and things of first class. It looks rather nice.
The point in that is, with all that is going on, and somebody goes, Rob, why does it matter? It's just sports, right? And the answer is yes. Like in the grand scheme, I've said this about everything in sports for a very long time. If you really boil it down to the crux of the argument, in our day-to-day life, sports is irrelevant, right? Like if sports went away tomorrow, we all still got to get up and go to work and pay bills and take care of our families and all that.
But we all know what it's like to be without sports and how much everyone missed it.
Because it is so important to us that it goes from something that should be theoretically.
We had to do a show for almost a year without sports.
It was tough.
Well, I don't
It
know.
wasn't tough for us. It was easy. We're good at this. Marble racing covered us for a couple of days.
You were so fascinated with that. That was just weird.
Still am. It's amazing. I appreciated what Le Batard did here, right? I get very, very tired.
It's the pot in the kettle. I mean, he is one of the most controversial radio shows.
Le Batard?
Yes. Of all time as far as sports goes.
Le Batard.
And a lot of it is political, but still, he is very controversial.
Right, but Le Batard is controversial because of the not sports stuff, right? Le Batard is controversial because of his politics to some degree, just like Rush Limbaugh, right? Dan Le Batard is controversial because if you listen to Le Batard's show, and we used to carry it many moons ago when I first got here.
By the way, I liked Le Batard's show.
I'm not saying I didn't.
I can't stand his politics, but I like this show. I thought they had a good mix with all their guys and all that stuff.
I don't disagree. Le Batard was to some degree controversial because you could listen to Le Batard's show for 3 hours and you might get two segments that were sports. Right? Like an hour and a half of every 2 hours was anything but sports. And again, it worked. It's fine. What I don't like is when people start to lie to get listeners, when people start to damage other people to get listeners, when people start to say things that are just completely ridiculous, outlandish, and over the top just to get listeners. But hey, maybe I'm doing the one. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But what I did appreciate was finally a dude in that arena in Le Batard willing to go head to head to butt heads with Stephen A. Smith on this topic. And I don't know that it's not going to happen because Stephen A. Smith just started another podcast put out by Odyssey. Maybe I'm going to get in trouble for this segment now. I don't know.
Let's say every time you say butthead, I want to laugh, and I feel so juvenile. That's it.
Okay. Anyway, we put in a request to have Stephen A. Smith on this show. And you had better believe that I very much planned on asking him, do you believe that hot take sports entertainment is a good thing or not? But you heard Steve, I'm a journalist at heart. No, you're an editorialist. There's a big difference. Editorialists are just the hot takers of print. You're not a journalist. You're an editorialist. There's a difference, right?
You're just a hot taker. Print.
Yes. He tried to sell him. What a guy like Stephen A. does here is he tries to sell himself as a journalist to lend himself credibility that's not earned. Now, I'm not saying he's never acted as a journalist, but he leans on all these places where he was a columnist. He was an editorialist. That's not journalism. And I'm not saying that as a shot towards editorialists and column writers. I'm one of them. I used to write columns for the Northwest Florida Daily News. That's where this all started for me.
Would you feel the same way if your background wasn't in journalism and if you weren't a columnist?
Dude, my career in radio started as a columnist. Northwest Florida Daily News. I used to cover high school sports and also write a weekly column. All right. One of my favorite ones of all time I wrote was that y'all need to get up off Johnny Manziel's jock strap. You just don't like him because he's brash, but he's damn good. And I got flamed on in the local paper because of that. And it probably, scratch that, not probably, it got me to a place where my radio show took off.
Well, if we're talking about college, you're absolutely right. When he got the NFL, that's
it did not work out.
It did not.
But in college, he was the damn good football player. Anyway, we'll come back to that. No, we won't. We're not talking about Johnny Manziel 12 years later.
Johnny Football.
Johnny Football. What I'm saying is you can do entertaining sports that has solid information, analytical takes, human interest, drama, etc., without making stuff up and screaming all the time. It was last week because Tim Snow was in here. T2 was in here last week. And there's a TV. You can't see it on the stream, but up and to my left, there's a television that we have on, and we keep it on the different networks in case there's breaking news during the show that doesn't hit on Twitter or whatever. Last week, I watched a segment where Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith. Now, we couldn't hear it. The volume wasn't on because I'm doing a radio show. But I was watching the TV because Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith were both screaming at each other, and I started keeping track. For 45 seconds, Lonzo, both of them were yelling. 45 seconds, both of them were yelling, and JJ Redick was in the middle of them like this. Just like, what are we doing here, fellas? Why is that what we do?
You're basing all this on JJ Redick's
facial
reactions. I mean, come on. Okay.
And don't get me wrong, JJ can get into the hot take stuff too. I'm not saying he can't.
I think this thing with Stephen A. and with Le Batard is a work. And I know I say that all the time, but I do think it's work. These are two professionals. And in the end, if you don't like their style of radio or their style of TV, just don't watch it. But there's a reason why, especially in Stephen A.'s case, that he's still on TV, because people are watching it.
Can I tell you what the problem
is? Although there are
a
lot of layoffs going on over there. So, yeah. So.
Let me tell you what the actual problem is, because you just hit on it. You just said, if you don't like it, don't listen. And if you follow me on Twitter, right? If you follow me on Twitter, you know I've been of that mindset for a very long time. I constantly say, if you don't like somebody in sports media, don't respond to them. If you don't, and this is at every level. I'm talking from your local paper up to ESPN, right? There are people who have accused me incorrectly of trying to take down people I work with. I'm not. This is advice for everybody, myself included. If you don't like them, turn them off. The problem is, because there's a limited market for this stuff, every time somebody responds to a Stephen A. and they think they're dunking on him but gets him more clicks and views, you limit the market for other options, right? If I don't like wrestling, right? How many years was my biggest complaint, Zoe? It's not that I don't like what WWE is doing. It's that I don't have any other options unless I go to like local indie shows, which are tough to get to. The problem is, even with more sports talk shows than we've ever, or more sports networks than we've ever had before, if you don't like the Embrace debate shows on ESPN and you flip over to FS1 that morning, guess what they're doing? The same thing. It's the same thing.
See,
just with less talented screaming people.
I got to tell you, I watch in the morning. I watch Good Morning Football on the NFL Network, and I still watch, because it's the only thing on, is Max and those guys. I can only handle so much of Good Morning Football because there is no debate at all. I mean, and when there is, it's so good natured that you don't feel like that if there's no emotion behind it, it doesn't seem genuine. And even if I don't like the takes on the other show, I will watch them sometimes because I get bored if it's too vanilla the entire time.
I think we've created this world. We've created this.
I'm just showing there's an alternative, but that alternative is not for me all the time.
And that's fair.
I like the option of being able to switch back and forth, which is what I do.
I do too, except for there's effectively one place I can go where it's not people screaming for 2 hours. That's the NFL Net. And guess what? They only talk about just the NFL. I want NBA talk. But what I don't need is Perkins screaming getting after it over an unrelated topic, by the way, right? Here's the other part. How many times do I need to tune in to hear Steph Curry drop 35 on the Pels last night? How does this impact LeBron's legacy? I stop. 844-FANFONE, 844-326-3663, 844-326-3663. Text us at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N. We'll read them on the air. Texter says, my opinion, Greeny is a great example of how sports radio should be done. Besides the Rob Brown show, good information, good debates, great guest, no yelling. Look, I don't mind getting heated every now and then. I've done it on this show. But it can't, is that the only thing we want? Is that just where we are?
You just said you've yelled on the show.
Back after this on the Rob Brown show in the Fan Upstate. Dan Le Batard's dad should have been the only part of this show. Poppy should have been on every segment.
Yeah, I have a story about that when I come back.
About Poppy?
About why we, as a station, had words with them.
Okay. Be right back, guys.
You know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America,
All right, so a quick Poppy story.
Yes.
So when we first started carrying them, I was putting in promos, and our voice guy, who's a big goofball, did a Poppy impersonation. So I asked down the hall, can I just go ahead and use that for the promos? I was given permission. Levitard and his people were very unhappy about that. Yes. And someone told them.
Yeah.
Or maybe they were listening. I don't know. But they were very unhappy about that. And because we're all about the trolling and stuff, when they got mad about it, we just continued to do it. So, I mean, so there's that. Wasn't anything against them. I thought it was funny. I went and asked first, I got permission. So I did it. You don't think that you're going to suddenly get contacted by them about that. And I get it. It's intellectual property and all that kind of stuff. But in our case, it's parody.
Yeah. So if I recall correctly
for now, parody's okay.
From my journalism classes back in the day, parody.
And by the way, I don't run things around here. I'm just the king of peons, which still makes me a peon.
But also a king.
Yes, well.
Grab that crown, king. Parody must be made obvious for it to avoid being impersonation.
Well, they didn't.
So if you made a promo where Poppy was just talking about how bad
no, it's this is the Dan Levitard show. That was it. It was the intro.
I can see why. I'm not saying they were right to be upset. I'm saying why they could be upset about it.
Well, so anyway, we never stopped, and they're no longer here. So I mean, whoever's right, I don't know.
Texture says, Rob, I'm a delivery driver. I listen to you every morning. Best show in the state.
Armada.
Welcome to the Armada, my man. The Rob Brown Show Armada grows by one.
We gotta get what do we need, like a semi horn or something whenever we get a new Armada member?
Oh, yeah, we do.
We gotta get something.
If you are out there driving a truck, delivery truck, 18-wheeler, semi, cargo van, whatever. We did a show at, where was it? Hall of Fame last year.
It was.
We were giving away hats, and we had, I don't know, 7, 8 different folks show up going, I drive a delivery truck, or I drive a van, or I drive whatever every day. I listen to your show, and thus was born the Rob Brown Armada. So if you're out there, shoot us a text, 71307, not while you're driving. When you get to your next stop, shoot it to a text at 71307. Start your with fan, and let us know your name. Let us know the Armada is listening. Also, by the way, I actually didn't tell Lonzo this yet. We got our new thing starting on the 3rd, the Rob Brown Show starting 11, where throughout the month we will be power ranking listeners based on their contributions to the show. Text, tweets, calls, chat participation. If Lonzo or I see you out in public rocking Fan Upstate gear, and at the end of every month, we will announce our Rob Brown Show starting 11. The starting 11 will each get a personalized shout out of their choosing on the air to start the next month of broadcasting. You will be judged on your participation by myself, by Lonzo, by one anonymous judge. And in case of a tie for the starting 11, one other person who will be given the content, who does not listen to the show every day, to decide who made the show more entertaining to them. And those 11 people will get a personalized shout out on the air to start the next month of broadcasting.
If your name is Kevin, you can't participate.
That's why there are 3 judges and not just one. All right. That is going to start next Monday. We are looking for texts, tweets, phone calls, participation in the live stream at facebook.com/thefanupstate or on YouTube at the Fan Upstate. We are looking for your participation in the show. Top 11 show contributors at the end of every month get a personalized shout out to say whatever they want within FCC violations to start the next month of broadcasting, and will be acknowledged throughout the month on the show. So stay tuned for that. All right, we got a bunch of stuff coming up in the next hour of the show. Dabo Swinney said that Clemson has, quote, never been better, end quote, as they work their way through the 2023 spring camp. Is that accurate? Is that true? Do we believe that, or is it coach speak? We'll break that down. The NBA has announced their newest Hall of Fame class. It is headlined by a guy who's still actively coaching, as well as my favorite player of my generation. I'll tell you who's going into the NBA Hall of Fame coming up. And LSU fans gonna LSU fan. Number of LSU fans found stealing something from the university. And it's hilarious. All that and more coming up in the next hour of the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Steven said, I need the update. Zoe, did the snake move on, or did you use the other door?
I used a broom and shoved it off the steps, and it landed in the flower beds that I haven't cleaned yet because I, lost a couple of days on my vacation. So probably this weekend I will be Leonard Nimoy in search of, and really hope I don't find it. As long as it didn't get in the house, that's the problem. When they get in the house, it's madness. I really am considering putting some tool of death outside where I can find it, where I don't have to get in the house to get the keys to go to the place to get the thing. I used to have hidden weapons all over my yard at my house growing up. So I knew when I was being chased by the 5 people, if I could get to the broken fence post, there was a tire iron there that might help equalize some things, or at least, help me get away a little bit further. Not a joke, by the way. Dead serious about that. It also helps if you know the woods like the back of your hand that are, behind your house. So if you had to hide, you know what trees to get into, We did try that digging out a hideout type thing, but it always flooded because, this was before it came out. So we didn't know the proper way of digging an underground clubhouse. I do appreciate your concern, Stephen. You would think the cats would. They're like all over the place out there, although I haven't seen them lately. So I'm thinking maybe the crows
got them.
No, I think the crows got them. I think the crows might have got them, or them daggum possums.
Daggum possums.
I haven't seen a possum in a while. Not that I want to. Maybe there's something bigger out there. Could be some bar. Have you seen the Wonder Woman jerseys?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
But if they follow the trend of the
all the other stuff has been pretty cool.
They've all been very good. I almost bought one of the Black Avengers jerseys a while back. They went on sale in the Hop store, the Hop Shop.
The Hop Shop.
Black with the dark gray Avengers A on the front. Didn't hate those at all. The only one that they missed on to me was they made a Thanos jersey last season, and it wasn't bad. The problem was, and it was the Thanos jersey, by the way, their right glove was purple. Their left glove was an Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh, that's cool.
It was very cool. The problem was they went up against an Iron Man jersey that night that they put on the away team. White with the round Iron Man, like the logo they use in all the games to represent Iron Man when you're playing as him, on the chest with this like digital underlay, like a cyber underlay on it. It was legitimately my favorite jersey of all time, except it had the Jacksonville Icemen logo on it. And I was like, nope. Giving nothing that benefits Jacksonville. Ever. I want somebody to trade for Trevor Lawrence to get him out of Jacksonville. That's how much I hate Jacksonville. Save TL.
Edict of philosophy and prediction. She talked about scrambled jet fighters, and she talked about balloons, and she was completely accurate. I think she should be commended and should have been listened to. Josh is talking about raccoons in your neighborhood or somewhere around
That's
there.
a raccoon this morning in a neighbor's yard laying near a cat like it wanted to play with the cat. It was in a yard just down the road from Jonathan's house, Rob. I leave raccoons and possums alone.
That's a good move. Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah.
Not like partially because I ain't trying to get bit, but partially because coons and possums don't bother nobody, and they're good for the environment.
They do when they fight each other, which I've seen on my back deck.
That ain't a body. That's another coon or another
It was
possum.
an amazing thing. The pregnant raccoon won, though. It was, pull up your popcorn, check it out, and go, man, we don't live in the city anymore.
of the Rob Brown Show starts now. This is the Fan Upstate, ladies and gentlemen. Rob and Lonzo with you on the midweek edition of the show. 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. You can text us at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. You can also tweet us at The Rob Brown Show. That's my handle. At Lonzo on Word, W-O-R-D, is Zoe's. And, of course, you can get to everybody on the station at The Fan Upstate. We would very much appreciate a like and a follow across all of the social media handles. Plus, you can now go to YouTube and find the Fan Upstate on YouTube as well. Great place not only to watch the show live, all show, every show, but also to be able to go back and watch them back later. So if you missed anything, you can put YouTube on your smart TV and throw the Rob Brown Show video edition right up there on the big screen and make sure you don't miss anything. Will you grab me when you have a moment? Great one. Clip number 2. Jim Larrañaga is the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, the basketball team. Jim Larrañaga, the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes basketball team, is, of course, in the men's Final Four alongside Florida Atlantic, UConn, and San Diego State University. It is an unheralded Final Four with a 4 seed, 2 5 seeds, and a 9 seed. No 1, 2s, or 3s to be found anywhere. Now, I have made the argument that despite some contradictions or some claims to the contradiction, this has been the most compelling NCAA March Madness tournament that we have had in a very, very long time. It's a great tournament. The Blue Bloods have fallen. We've got mid-majors. We've got the ACC's water being carried by the Canes. We have got one classic team. We have got one unheralded team nobody's ever talked about in FAU. This is the most compelling tournament, regardless of what its television ratings do, right? There are folks who are predicting the men's Final Four will suffer in viewership because of the fact that there are no Blue Bloods dancing. And that might be true. We'll find out. What I have said in the past, however, and we'll say again now, is that if you are not watching or enjoying this tournament because the Carolinas, the Kansases, the UCLAs have all been bounced, then you're not a basketball fan. You're a gambling fan. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm the only person on this station that hosts a nationally syndicated gambling show throughout the baseball season. I love gambling. I'm a fan. But you're not a basketball fan if this tournament isn't entertaining you, because it's been wildly entertaining. Jim Larrañaga, the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes, for a team in the Final Four, had a very, very interesting comment about it. Here's what Larrañaga had to say. Jim Larrañaga says that he wouldn't want a Final Four like this every year because it's bad for TV. Now, To some degree, I get it, right? College basketball coaches want college basketball as popular as it can be on television because that brings more resources to college basketball. More resources to college basketball can get spread around to more schools. It's better for everybody. So I get where Jim's coming from here. I'm not saying I don't ever want to see a blue blood back in the Final Four. Of course I do. Of course I do. What I'm saying is you're casting this negativity on this Final Four, of which, by the way, I don't know if Jim knows this, but the Miami Hurricanes aren't exactly considered a traditional basketball powerhouse. And when you tell a television audience, when you tell any group of people enough times that a thing is bad, they will start to believe that the thing is bad. When you tell people enough that a thing is good, mob mentality takes over, they'll believe the thing is good. I cite curling as my evidence. A couple of years ago during the Winter Olympics, I got super into curling. I started talking about curling as a joke on the radio the last day of the Winter Olympics in like 2014 or whatever it was. I had like 87 people show up at a bar at 7 a.m. to watch curling. I don't understand why Jim Larinaga would take the Final Four of the most compelling basketball tournament of all time. I can't say of all time. Some of y'all might remember some more compelling tournaments from days gone by. But one of the most compelling tournaments, certainly of recent memory. And by the way, a tournament that you're still in. And try to convince me this outcome is bad. Miami, FAU knocked out a 1 seed. San Diego State knocked out the overall number 1 seed. So it's not like you can say these are teams that got lucky to be here. They have won 4 consecutive games in the most competitive tournament in arguably all of American sports. All of these teams had to win 4 games against good opponents, at the very least, mid-major champions to get here. And the coach of a team that is still in the Final Four is now going, oh, there's no blue bloods. This is bad. I could not disagree more. Look, would I love if the Final Four featured a Carolina-Duke rivalry, an Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, an Auburn-Alabama rivalry? Hell yeah. Those rivalries added on with an Elite Eight or a Final Four showdown with elimination on the line. Yeah, those are the types of stories we follow in sports. I'm not arguing. But how is the mighty, mighty Owls of FAU knocking off a 1 seed to get here not just as compelling? How is Miami, a very good team out of the ACC, but not a Carolina, not a Duke, not a Virginia? How are the Canes, a team that got bounced from the ACC tournament, not compelling? Why is it? And to go back to a segment we did last hour, I don't understand why sports fans, and in this case, despite the fact that he is a Final Four coach, I'm going to consider him a fan for the sake of this conversation. I do not understand why sports fans try so damned hard to make things that are different inherently bad. I mean, I think that's to go philosophical, I think that's a problem just with humanity as a whole. Something being different, something I'm not used to, must inherently be bad. That's a bias I think we all fall subject to here and there. I don't understand why Jim Larinaga 4 days before his team plays in a Final Four would say, yeah, I don't think we like this all that much. Right? People want Duke and Carolina. Like, if you're Carolina's coach, if you're Duke's coach, if you're Kansas's coach, I mean, sure, I guess that would make sense to say. People like the Final Four better when our team's in it. Yeah, that would make sense, I guess. But how does the coach of a team in the Final Four come out 4 days before the Final Four and say, yeah, it's not the best? Mid-majors, non-Power 5 conference winners, teams that took down the number 1 overall. No. What people want is Duke, Carolina. Coach, you coach Miami, right? And you're in the Final Four. Why do sports fans constantly do their best to make sports bad?
Is there a possibility that he was being sarcastic without using a different tone?
I don't think so. Larinaga is a pretty clear-cut, straightforward dude as a coach. You don't often hear. He's not. I'm trying to think of who I would input. He's more Saban than he is Lane Kiffin. I don't understand why Miami's head coach would go out of his way on tape to say that this Final Four isn't compelling. First off, I disagree with him entirely. It's very compelling. San Diego State knocked off the number 1 overall seed and did so with absolutely smothering defense that prevented Brandon Miller from ever getting going. UConn now effectively represents the Blue Bloods in this whole thing, even though they're not a Kansas Carolina. Miami is the NIL team, right? Like, if you're an NIL fan, Miami is proof that if you run the river right, you can put together a championship team that way. And then there's little old Cinderella FAU, a 9 seed, making its way in. There is a storyline for everybody in this Final Four. Who are you jumping on board with? Are you jumping on board with a classic Blue Blood and UConn? Are you jumping on board because you love old school physical defensive basketball with SDSU? Are you jumping on board because you're an NIL guy and you want it to be proven that NIL is good for parity in schools and rolling with the Canes? Or are you a fan of the little guy, the Cinderella story, the upstart FAU to bring a natty to a small school? I would think that unless you're just like a diehard Carolina Duke fan who doesn't give a damn about anybody who's not your school, everybody's got a storyline to follow in this Final Four. I can't stand a Miami Hurricane. Sorry, Hurricane Jeff. You know I love you, dog. But you better believe I am pulling to see Miami get bounced so I can enjoy the Hurricane Surrender Cobras in the crowd. Big fan. I am pulling for FAU. Little schools will always tug at Rob Brown's heartstrings. And I love old school, big man-oriented defensive basketball like SDSU. In fact, the only team that I don't have a rooting interest in this Final Four is UConn. There's something for everybody. So why would Jim Larinaga, a coach in the Final Four, try to convince you that this isn't a great Final Four that his team's playing in, when if you just look at it for 35 seconds, there's absolutely and obviously a compelling Final Four lined up for this weekend. I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it. Let's take a break. I got a few more things I want to get to in this hour of the radio broadcast. Dabo says Clemson has, quote, never been better. Is he right? Is that true? Do we see a new look Tiger team this year with the upgrades, the departure of DJ Uyunglele? Is this the best Clemson team ever? Let's evaluate what Dabo had to say when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Thursday, sunny and 70 degrees, and Friday, partial sunshine, high 74. Saturday, chance for showers and storms, a high 79, and Sunday, sunny and about 70. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Glinchinsky on the Fan Upstate. Currently, it's 51.
And buy into the process. So let's get to it, because we do have to expect to it's shutdown season for Portland Trailblazers. No Damian Lillard for the rest of the year, along with most of the starters. Portland is just
Grab me a drink. Be right back, guys. All right, ladies and gents, we are back.
Call 800-932-8603 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-932-8603. That's 800-932-8603. What do you have to lose? Call 800-932-8603. Again, 800-932-8603. Do you have heart failure, an often healer?
Those stomach issues ruined your birthday.
You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa.
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist and transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
The Dell Technologies semi-annual sale starts now with limited quantity deals on select performance PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Save on select postural laptops with built-in security features and select Latitude laptops with enhanced privacy, collaboration, and connectivity. Save on select essential accessories plus free shipping and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Inflation is ridiculous. Everything from gas prices, food, and vacation.
Look at that. There's Hugh Jackman working out just to make me feel better about myself. That's a lot of weight on that thing.
So I got a text from a number I don't have saved the other day that said, "Will you have lunch with me tomorrow? Do you have time to see my messages? Are you there?" That's got to be spam, right? Like, and I don't want to respond to it because I don't want to open up a conversation.
Yeah, I got one about my Netflix account. It's like wanting the account number and stuff. Like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. Maybe answer in a different language. See, now it's going to bug you. I went an entire year not knowing who someone was and would drop clues trying to figure out who it was, and I finally figured it out.
I don't want to play the guessing game on a text line, my guys. Spring football taking place around the country, and Clemson is no different. Back-to-back seasons for the Tigers without making it to the playoffs, though they were a South Carolina victory away from doing it this past season. And questions have started to pop up about the program, including by some Clemson fans themselves.
You know what that made me do? This next bed that I'm going to use is called Beamers.
You would. You would.
I'm not joking.
Oh, I believe you entirely. Dabo Swinney, however, has not lost any confidence in his football team. But is it coach speak, or does Dabo have a point? Swinney said, quote, "People, they need stories, and it's a story if Clemson went to 6 playoffs in a row and then didn't make it. What's wrong with them? There's nothing wrong with Clemson. There's nothing wrong with our program. In fact, I would argue, honestly, our program has never been better," end quote. Asked to elaborate on that, Swinney said, quote, "Our people, the kids on this roster, the talent, our coaches, our support staff, our administration, our infrastructure, our connectivity, I'm better now than I've ever been as a head coach. It's not even close where I am now to where I was in 13 when we won our first BCS game. Never been better," end quote. Of course, Dabo entering his 16th year as Clemson's coach, made what I think was the most high-profile hire in the college football offseason, bringing in Garrett Riley as the OC, not just because of the fact that Garrett Riley is moving over from a high-octane offense for the Horned Frogs that made it to the national championship game this year. Of course, they got smoked by the Dogs in that one. But he did coach his way through a respectable conference, through a national championship semifinal, and made it to the biggest stage before they collapsed. But he also did something that a lot of folks have criticized Dabo for not doing. That is, of course, hiring outside of the Clemson network. Not bringing up one of his guys, as he did with Brandon Streeter last year, a decision that left a lot of Clemson fans befuddled before the season started and very disappointed after it was over. Clemson improved offensively last year. They gained 40 yards more per game than the previous year, but in total offense ranked 47th in the country last year. DJ Uiagalelei struggled at times. Cade Klubnik took over for him in the ACC championship game and the Orange Bowl, an Orange Bowl performance in which Clemson ran over 100 plays, but scored only 14 points in a loss to Tennessee that I think was the trigger that convinced Dabo to go outside of the program and to move on at that point. So, is this the best that Clemson has ever been? I know that the standard response is going to be no. They not only didn't win a national championship, but they didn't make it in, right? They weren't even in a spot where they could have. They didn't, like TCU, get to the Natty and then fail. They didn't even get to the playoffs. How could you say that they are in the best place they've ever been? And my answer to that is twofold. Number one, Clemson partially got left out because while statistically speaking, they had a fine year. Not great, not exceptional, not where they've been in the past. The problem that you have here is that the ACC was, and I don't think this is arguable, down this year. It was just not a great conference.
Down. When's the last time they were? Sorry.
Like 2013.
Okay.
Now, I think to some degree that will be better this year. I do think FSU is going to be on the up and up this year. I don't know that I'm quite ready to say they're a playoff contender yet, but I think they are a threat to win 11 this year. Miami will be better this year. Again, not ready to make a playoff run, but I think that's a solid 10 win team this year. I think North Carolina is going to turn a corner and be better this year. That will help as well. NC State, question mark. The rest of the Carolina schools, question marks. But I think the ACC will be better. I'm not saying they're going to be the SEC yet, but I think they'll be better. And I think that helps Clemson's argument when it comes to what 1 or 2 loss teams have to get just barely left out. If Clemson finds himself as an 11-1 team again this year, I think they will have a much stronger argument as an 11-1 team out of this year's ACC than last year's. Talent-wise, I think Clemson's fine. There are some spots that have to be questioned. I'm interested to see, specifically with some of the injuries, what the wide receiver and defensive back groups look like. But I think across the OL, even with some movement, Clemson's going to be fine. There are absolutely going to still be some questions about Cade Klubnik.
Come on now. Come on. I was waiting for you to get to this. Clemson fans are loving what Dabo's saying because he finally got rid of the problem. DJ's no longer there. Everything is sunshine now. Not that sunshine. He's in Jacksonville. Everything is sunshine now. Everything is good. This is the best that Clemson has ever looked. What was he supposed to say? Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago we were better than we are now, but you know, we'll make do with what we got. Of course he's going to say this is the best they've ever been. We'll see when they get out on the field. It just depends on if Cade hands off 40 times or 50 times about how well they do.
I don't have a problem with labeling this coach speak, right? Like, of course it is. You're very rarely, and now you are going to every now and then find a Nick Saban who is so ingrained in their school that they absolutely can come out and go, we got a lot of work to do to get to where we need to be.
Or old-time Lou Holtz, just pour mouth and everything.
Yeah. You got to be, you kind of got to reach legend status to get to that point. Otherwise, you got to talk about how incredibly optimistic you are. I absolutely think within the Clemson family that Dabo's done enough that he could come out and go, yeah, we're not where we want to be yet.
All right.
We're working on it.
You guys may not know this about me, but I don't like Clemson, but Clemson's going to win the ACC because again, Clemson is the ACC.
Again, I can't.
If you know someone who's actually an ACC fan, I might know 1 or 2 that might offend them, but until something changes, Clemson is the ACC.
I think, like I said, if you ask me today to put a check mark next to the ACC winner, Clemson is the bet. They are going to go into this season with minus odds in Vegas to be the eventual ACC champions. I'm not arguing that.
I also want to apologize to the listeners. I cannot do Clemson Bullnauer right now because my head hurts and I might die.
They're calling for it, Lonzo. The people want it.
Yeah, I just can't.
I would, like I mentioned, I would be very careful about writing off some of the other schools, Florida State, Miami predominantly. I would be very, very careful about dismissing them as no starters. But yes, without a doubt, the Clemson Tigers are going to be the favorites to win the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Here's what's going to happen here in a month or so. I forget exactly when it is. ACC Media Day is going to happen. You're going to be there, going to be broadcasting live more than likely, and everyone's going to be optimistic, and then the star will roll in, and that will be Dabo and the Clemson Tigers, and everyone will scramble. We both have seen this happen towards Dabo because they know that's the guy, that's the team. Until someone takes them down, they're the champs of the ACC every year.
Once again, not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying you're wrong here. That is absolutely how it's going to work until someone unseats the king. The king sits at the head of the table. Acknowledge them. Okay? But
I just thought about something. No DJ interview this year.
no DJ interview this year. That's right. He's been with us the last two. And a great interview, by the way.
So if you have,
He sold me last year.
if you have Cade on, I have no problem with asking him, what is the, how do you practice handing off so well? I mean, were you born with that skill or, he could be driving around right now listening, going, I hate that guy. Good.
Let's look at the Vegas odds. Now, this is not for the ACC title. This is for the Natty. Okay? NCAA.
Wait, you know why it's not for the ACC title? Because they already know who's winning it.
All right, hold on. Let me give you the odds.
All right.
And then see how you evaluate them. NCAA football outright futures. This is for your national championship winner. No surprise to anybody, I think, that Georgia is a heavy odds-on favorite to go three-peat. The Georgia Bulldogs are plus 210 to win the national championship. Right behind them, Lonzo, two teams tied at plus 500, Alabama and Ohio State. They are your second best odds, or I should say shortest odds, in Vegas to win a natty.
That's weird. Ohio State's quarterback's gone. How are they going to, we'll see.
It's Vegas. This is what they do. Right behind them at plus 750 are the Michigan Wolverines. Behind them at plus 1,200 is USC, the Trojans. Behind them at plus 1,500, that is where you find the Tigers
So what? I lost count.
of
All right.
LSU.
Oh.
See what I did? That's a swerve.
Wow.
See what I did there?
You got me.
LSU at plus 1,500. Right behind LSU at plus 2,000 is where you find Clemson. Okay?
How
Plus
far?
2,000.
How many is that? I just, there's a tie in there, and there's a.
There are 6 teams ahead of Clemson
Okay, all right.
in line for a title, according to Vegas.
That is unusual for a team that's the best they've ever been.
Now, plus 2,000. Do you know who the next team is right behind them at plus 2,200? Now, to keep in perspective here,
I'm going to guess it's Florida State.
it absolutely is. To keep in perspective, the difference between Clemson and Florida State, the difference between Georgia and Alabama is 290 on the odds line. The difference between Michigan and Ohio State at 3 and Michigan to 4 is 250 on the Vegas line. The difference from Michigan to USC is 450 on the betting line. The difference from USC to LSU is 300 on the betting line. The difference from LSU to Clemson on the betting line is 300. From FSU or from Clemson to Florida State is 200. It is the smallest jump from one rank to the next of the first 10 teams. So I'm kind of in the middle. Do I think this is coach speak? To some degree, yeah. Dabo remains, whether you find it corny or not, and again, people outside of Clemson do, Dabo remains a guy known for his relentless optimism, even in the face of adversity. I respect that. It's Ted Lasso-ish, and I'm a fan. Do I think Clemson is the best it's ever been? No. And I can't think any Clemson fans think that Clemson is the best they've ever been. Even if I take into account the fact that Georgia, who, by the way, isn't the best they've ever been. Georgia was the best they've ever been last year. They got a lot of ground to make up this year. Alabama is certainly not the best it's ever been. Lonzo, is Ohio State the best it's ever been?
I don't know.
No. I do. No. Now, maybe they shock me, and by week 6, we're like, damn, this is the best Ohio State team ever. But I can look back to some pretty damn good Ohio State teams over the last 20 years and go, I don't think they're going to be as good as they were then.
Well, they've had a
when
pretty
Terrell Pryor was there.
They've had a pretty good run on quarterbacks. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say history, and especially recent history, would make you think that there's a good possibility. They need to learn how to play defense better and maybe have a kicker who can make a kick that would have took them to the national championship game.
Is Michigan the best they've ever been? No. Is USC the best they've ever been? Hell no. Is LSU the best they've ever been? Hell no.
But how do you know any of this until they're out on the field? We don't know.
If I compared this year's LSU team to Joey Burrow's LSU team, that was just 4 years ago. I'm taking the Joey Burrow team minus $1 billion to beat this year's LSU
All right,
team.
I know how this is going to sound, and that's fine. But LSU is not in the league with Ohio State and Alabama and some of those teams that are there every single year.
Right.
They're ranked there every single year
Right.
because they're that good every single
And
year.
they are still where compared to Clemson on the Vegas lines, or ahead of them. Right? That's my point. I am fine with Dabo saying everything's fine. The panic button does not need to be pushed.
You know what I'm curious about? And there's no way we can know what it would have been, what the line would have been if DJ was still there. Is this primarily because of the quarterback?
I'm sure there's a large part of this that has to do with the fact that Cade Klubnik was a highly touted recruit who came in and played relatively well in the 2 games that he got the most service time, the ACC title game and the Orange Bowl.
All right. So, or maybe it has to do with him not playing as well as they thought he would. And that's the reason why they've dropped.
Maybe not.
Maybe there's some doubters out there about the new offensive play caller. Maybe people think that the defense is in decline.
And that's fine. But all of this circles back around to, I think it's ridiculous to say Clemson is the best it's ever been. But I also think that it's ridiculous to say Clemson's anywhere close to the worst they've ever been, right? They're fine. They're fine. I am happy to say they're in league with LSU, USC, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia. I am talking about a team that has a lot of solid veterans. Will Shipley, Barrett Carter, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., etc. They are going to have one of, if not the best defensive lines in football this year. Of course, we said that last year, and not really. This is going to be a good team. Lonzo's dead on accurate. They are without a question going to be the odds-on favorite to win the Atlantic Coast Conference. Do I think it is a for sure money bet that they will? No. I think FSU and Miami, especially without divisions, where you could see either one of those teams potentially twice in the season.
It's going to be so weird. It really is.
Divisions?
No division is going to be weird.
I don't think so at all.
I don't think it's a trend that's going to last. We'll see.
I bet you within the next 3 years, they are not the only Power 5 without divisions. The SEC is next, and it's coming sooner than you think.
We'll see.
We sure will.
I mean, hopefully they're sitting back and watching to see how this works for the ACC. But unfortunately, the ACC is not that good of a conference. So, I mean, you can't even say they're top heavy. You're speculating about possibly Miami and Florida State, but it's speculating. The SEC, they know who the top 4 or 5 teams are. So if you go without divisions, you know who that's going to be. You don't in the ACC.
We're going to come back to that because it is an interesting conversation. And I do wonder what the ACC feels like without divisions this year. But to finish up the thoughts on the Tigers real quick. No, I don't believe Clemson's coming into this as the best they've ever been before. I can't. You can't tell me teams quarterbacked by Deshaun and Trevor were better than this team with Cade Klubnik. Now, maybe Cade comes out and proves everybody that believed he is the second coming correct. For Clemson fans, I hope he does. For my bank account, I hope he does. But I can't rely on that. So while I very much like where this team is, I think this team is in a fine place. To say it's never been better, you just lost to South Carolina. It bumped you from the playoffs. You did not get into the playoffs. And you've had multiple natties. And even if, let's say, Georgia was the best they've ever been before, they're not. Bama was the best it's ever been before, they're not. The Buckeyes are the best they've ever been before, they're not. Michigan is the best it's ever been, they're not. USC is the best it's ever been, they're not. LSU is the best they've ever been, they are not. None of these teams are in the best position they've ever been before, and they've all got better odds than Clemson to win the Natty. Who, by the way, has watched Florida State creeping up month by month in the rearview mirror. They are 2,200, Clemson plus 2,000 even. No, it is not the best it's ever been. And you shouldn't believe that to be the case. But it's fine. You are one of the projected top 7 teams in college football this year. According to the most unbiased source there is, Las Vegas betting odds. Relax. You don't need to push the panic button, but let's not pretend that a coronation is in store either. Dabo's got some work to do. Getting Garrett Riley was the best move of the college football offseason of any school at any level. But now you got to translate it onto the football field, and that is something that was struggled with a couple of times last year. Can it be reverted? We don't know. That's why I can't say they're the best they've ever been. Let's take a break. Got a few more things I want to get into to wrap up hour number 2.
Hey, the name of this song is Beamers. It's in case you forgot. That's what a victory over Clemson sounds like.
When we come back, Bradley Beal is under investigation by police. Why? It's ridiculous. And I'll tell you when we return on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Correct, Jesse. You are not, I cannot say definitively that you're not very good or that you are very bad. I can definitively say this is not the best Clemson's ever been. No.
They could go undefeated and just totally destroy everybody by 30 points. I mean,
in which case I'll go, okay, now they're the best they've ever been. But today, right now, no chance.
To start having real conversations in French.
So I saw on stream yesterday, there's a small town back in Ohio called Obetz, and they have a Zucchini Fest. And guess what entertainment is headlining Zucchini Fest this year in September?
Zucchini Fest.
Zucchini Fest, yes. You know, like you have pumpkins or whatever. They have zucchini. So Zucchini Fest being headlined by Vanilla Ice and Tone Loc.
I'd go.
I mean,
Go.
I'll have some free time around the show. I go back to Ohio to see Vanilla Ice and Tone Loc. And yes, that was my teenage years right there. Although in all honesty, I never owned a Vanilla Ice. Anything. Had Tone Loc, though. So when I took Cameron to the pharmacy to get his meds when I was on vacation for his eyes, we hear, "I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop." And there's a black dude in one of those.
Your friend Charlotte Flair is on ESPN.
That is my friend. There's a black dude on this on one of those scooters. We turned around and looked at him. He's like, "Most people panic." And I looked at him and said, "Yeah, you'll hit him first. I'm good." He thought it was hilarious. He's like, "I do it all the time." He's like, the look on people's faces. It just took us a second to get what he was saying. And then we turn around and there he is coming up on the scooter. It ain't like he's coming high speed.
It's March, and you know what that means? Taxes are almost due. Jackson Hewitt can help you win tax season. That's the sound of your maximum tax refund. The sound of getting 50% off tax prep. The sound of many of our competitors' prices going up. And the sound of getting to your nearest Jackson Hewitt. Hurry in for 50% off tax prep before this offer expires April 9th. Limited time offer for new clients filing and participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
Ray Magliotti here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now.
That's the real question, Trey. And that's the proof if you've made it into the elite is, can you reload?
Yep.
You need parts, get it right the first time with eBay Guaranteed Fit. When you see the check, you know that part's gonna fit. eBay Motors, let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
From the Ingalls Market Studio, the
Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
from the free Odyssey app. CBS Sports Give you the game on the prop
NBA superstar Bradley Beal is under investigation by police for simple battery. Why? Because down in Orlando, after the Wiz played a rotary against the Magi at Amway Center, Beal and the Wizards were exiting the court and in the visitors tunnel. An unidentified man yelled very loudly and caught on camera, "You made me lose $1,300, you bleeper." But he didn't say bleeper. I'll let you fill in the blank of what he did say there. According to the report, Bradley Beal turned around, walked toward a friend of the man who made the comment, and swatted his right hand toward him, knocking the man's hat off and forcing him to hit himself on the right side of his head. Bradley Beal gave him the old, "Stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself." Police reviewed video footage of the altercation and heard Beal say this is his job and he takes it seriously. The man is heard apologizing, implying he did not intend to offend him. You know, like when you don't intend to offend somebody that you don't know by calling them a bleeper to their face. Anyway,
I thought that was a greeting for a lot of people.
if I know you and I like you and I know you like me and we're cool, we're bros, yeah, sure, absolutely, no problem. If I walk into a bar and you and me are boys and you're like, "Sup, bleeper," no problem, no worries. If I don't know you, I just got to assume you're ready to start. You're ready to go.
Isn't that, I mean, this goes along with it, especially in basketball. I mean, how many times do they hear this kind of stuff when they're walking off the court? I'm not saying you absolutely have to have thick skin, but you do have to have thick skin when it comes to that.
It's one of these things that I find myself in a very interesting middle of the road position in that on one hand, yeah, you can't just, especially as a professional athlete, wail on a dude because he said something you don't like in the tunnel.
Should he have walked up to him and said, you know, there are self-help groups that you can get for your gambling problem. Here's a phone number. Call this and they'll help you.
Here's what I know. It's not the best idea to walk up and pop a dude in the face when you're a professional athlete. You know there's about 1 billion cell phone cameras pointed at you at any given point in time that you're in the public. On the flip side, it's not like he decked the dude in the face, right? Like if Bradley Beal walked up and closed fist punched this dude in the dome, I'd be like, all right, probably a little much. But he smacked his hand, causing his hand to hit himself. And there's a part of me that's like, the guy kind of deserved it a little bit, right? Like he kind of deserved it a little bit. I have for many moons argued that there should be a rule in place that if you get cold cocked across the face and 3/4 of the people in the public area around you tell the cops that you definitely deserved it, that the guy doing the punching is off the hook, right? If you got the rocks to look a pro athlete in the face and call him a bleeper, and as this texter just said, he asked the question with an A or an ER. No. The word started with F. All right? Do with that information as you will. He dropped an F-bomb on him to his dome, to his face, and he got a hand swat out of the deal. Let's just call it what it is. That dude deserved it. All right? He didn't get rocked. He didn't get waylaid. He didn't get McGregored. He literally got a slap on the wrist, and then he hit himself in the face on accident. After calling an NBA player a F-bomber because he lost a bet. Dude, you kind of deserve that, my guy. Like, I'm not victim blaming here. But if you as a full-grown man say to another full-grown man's face, you're an F-bomber, don't be shocked when that guy slaps you across the dome, my man. And you got less than that. You didn't even get slapped. You hit yourself, dude. Anyway, Bradley Beal is facing charges of simple assault.
So,
or simple battery.
Does that dude get paid?
I don't know, man. Like, I also got to assume he could probably sue Bradley Beal for, like, distress or whatever. But then you got to, for the rest of your life, go, yeah. You know where I got my money? An NBA player slapped me in the wrist. I hit myself in the face, and then I got paid. I don't respect that, dude.
So he didn't actually cause the bodily harm, but he's an accessory
to his own bodily harm.
No, I'm talking about Beal.
Oh, Beal?
Yeah.
Well, he hit the dude on the wrist. Like, the dude was holding his hand up.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal slapped him on the wrist, and then his hand went and hit himself in the face. I said he gave him the old stop hitting yourself treatment. I don't know. It's stupid. It's stupid. Hey, let's take a break. Let's come back. Let's get into the third hour of the show on a Wednesday, shall we? Rob Alonzo and you on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. You know it.
I gotta say, I don't think I've ever said, "Hey, man, what's cracking?" Because what's that even mean? What's cracking?
What's cracking?
Cracking? No, I mean, what is cracking?
It's just a cool thing to say.
Yeah, is it cool though? I don't know that it is. Not that I'm the arbiter of cool or anything, but what exactly is cracking?
Get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job. And you can even invite your top choices.
Has anyone out there listening ever said what's cracking?
I've said it, but it's certainly not in the.
I bet you did it in a sarcastic way. Not like it's a normal greeting for you.
cracking.
Yeah. There he is kind of thing. What's cracking? What's cracking guy is the guy who shows up to a party and says the party has arrived. That's what's cracking guy. I'm here. The party starts now. What's cracking?
After 6 months, he hasn't felt any pain, and that has been 2 years since he's had treatment.
Plus, no drugs and no downtime.
He was literally out golfing when he wanted to and doing whatever he wanted to. It was probably 9 months before my brother-in-law got back out on the golf course, and my husband was on the golf course the entire time. And he was so elated. He said he was, Diane, game changer.
Before you have surgery for that joint pain, get a second opinion. Call QC Kinetics for your free consultation.
Ah, okay. I'll wait till you come back to talk about the etymology of it.
That's 864-448-3772.
Running a small business is no small task. At Home Trust Bank, we work hard to prepare businesses for whatever tomorrow may bring. Your dreams are our business, and we have local experts who can help you plan for a successful future. Dependable guidance you need and service you'll appreciate. At Home Trust Bank, we take your small business banking personally. Visit your local Home Trust branch or anytime at htb.com. Member FDIC.
When you think about spring, good stuff springs to mind. You know, like spring break. Woohoo! A friend springing for drinks.
Thanks, dude.
A spring in your step. Spring fever.
Oh, big man.
And best of all, spring water dough pizza from the Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers.
Yeah, baby.
Experience the taste of spring with our amazing hand-tossed pies, spring fresh salads, and over 100 beers from around the world. Enjoy spring at the Mellow Mushroom on Augusta Street in Greenville's West End.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep your operation running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Reagan in Buffalo, Maria in Miami, and Jules in Troy, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with high-quality supplies for every industry, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to help.
I'm not sure that's true, Marcus, but I like it.
Stop by Grainger for the ones who get it.
It's another one of those things where there's several different supposed points of origin. It still works, though. It absolutely does work. So there's actually an etymon line. It says it's Old English Cracian or Kraken, make a sharp noise, give forth a loud, abrupt sound. So it's basically when you say what's cracking, it's like, where's the noise? Maybe where the party at?
Marcus dropping a line.
Oh,
that
no,
I
it was great.
Completely wanted to believe, followed by I
That's-
totally made it up.
No, that's what I said. Because I said, dude, I don't know if that's real or
I
not.
was
But
all in
yeah.
on that explanation. Then he's like, "Nah, made that up." Incredible.
Gables in the first break.
Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The third, the final, the best, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is the Fan Upstate. I am Rob, the great one Lonzo on the other side of the glass. You guys are welcomed to be the third voice on the show at 844-326-3663. You can text us on the text line at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the radio broadcast. Friends and family. Let's get to some stuff we haven't gotten to yet. Real quick story, just because I found this yesterday afternoon, and it makes me laugh like a lot. You listen to the show for any length of time, you know that Rob Brown's favorite baseball player of all time is, of course, the kid, Ken Griffey Jr. Griff, the smoothest home run king swing of all time, a stellar outfielder, and the dude who made it cool to rock the backwards cap to the point that you would get benched by your own dad for refusing to turn your cap around. Me.
Standing up for what you believe in, man. Paying the price for it, but you did.
Cost me a start.
It's a principle thing.
Cost me a start. Love Griff. And it turns out that Ken Griffey Jr. might be just as much of a financial guru as he is a baseball player. Why, you might ask? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think all of us that are fans of professional sports have at times had our ire drawn out by ownership and management of our ball club. We have all looked at the owner and gone, oh, the hell, my dude or my dudette. What are you doing, bro? But I want you to all have a chuckle at the ownership of Lonzo's favorite baseball team, the Cincinnati Reds. We, every single year, have a lovely time discussing Bobby Bonilla Day. Bobby Bonilla gets paid every July 1st, $1.19 million from the New York Mets. And he will continue to do so from July 1st, 2011 until July 1st, 2035. Because he signed a deferred contract way back in the day. In 2000, the Mets agreed to buy out the remaining $5.9 million on Bobby Bonilla's contract. However, instead of paying Bonilla the $5.9 million at the time, the Mets agreed to make annual payments of $1.2 million for 25 years, starting July 1st, 2011, including a negotiated 8% interest. At the time, Mets ownership was invested in a double-digit returns account, the likes of which would have made Bernie Madoff impressed with its structure. The Mets were poised to make a significant profit if that account delivered, but it did not. It did not. And so because of the arrangement that they invested in and the way they decided to pay off that contract, the Mets owe Bobby Bonilla $1.95 or $1.19 million every year until the mid-2030s. Now, he's not alone. Brett Saberhagen gets $250,000 for the Mets every single year and will for another 24 seasons.
Yay, baseball. This is the only sport that does this, right?
Like this, yes. Max Scherzer, who famously does not pitch for the New York Mets, is scheduled to receive $105 million that will be paid off annually until 2028.
Is this like taking the annual payments if you win the lottery?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
But because of the way they structure it with interest and all that, it ends up being more than the contract is worth, and sometimes not insignificantly. Ken Griffey Jr. had a similar structure set up with the Cincinnati Reds. He played with the Reds from 2000 to 2008 before he was traded to the Chicago White Sox. When he got to the Reds, he signed a 9-year, $112.5 million deal that deferred his payment from 2009 to split payments all the way through 2024. That's next season. According to Spotrac, which is a company that I guess tracks professional athletes' contracts and payouts, Ken Griffey Jr. will earn this year, Lonzo, $3.5 million from the Cincinnati Reds. Now, that in and of itself is pretty impressive. A guy that's been retired for 13 years will make $3.5 million this year from the Cincinnati Reds. Griff's last season was 2010. Through next season, he will make roughly $3.5 million a year. That in and of itself is already strange. Here's my favorite part about this story, though. Ken Griffey Jr. is the 4th highest paid Cincinnati Red player right now. He retired 13 years ago and is the 4th highest paid Red right now. The only guys making more than Griff are Joey Votto, Mike Moustakas, and Will Myers, making 25, 22, and 6 annually. Those 3 numbers, the only 3 higher on the payroll than Ken Griffey Jr.
Is he the reason why they can't afford to pay anybody else?
No, because remember, in baseball, the luxury tax is available. You can go over the salary cap. You just got to pay extra money for it.
Okay. Does that doesn't count towards the salary cap, though, does it?
I don't know how they defer it, to be honest with you. And personally, I don't care. Because the fact that a player who's been retired for a baker's dozen seasons is if Griff Jr. was like the 12th highest paid player on your team or 8th highest paid player on your team, I'd be like, all right, I understand. You got a handful of seasons out of probably the most beloved American baseball player of all time. I don't know that there is a player more beloved by an entire generation of Americans than Ken Griffey Jr. To this day, Ken Griffey Jr.'s signature cleats are still the most purchased signature cleats of all Major League Baseball players. I don't know that there is a player that is more beloved by American sports fans in baseball than Ken Griffey Jr. But he's the 4th highest paid player on a team he hasn't played for since 2008. Forget that he retired in 2010. He left the Reds in 2008, and there are only 3 players on the team making more than that guy this year. Imagine being a Cincinnati Reds fan with your team, a 100-loss team last year. They were 62-100. The last time the Reds made the playoffs was 2020. That was the coronavirus season. The last time that they made the playoffs before that was 2013. So 2 playoff appearances in a decade. One of them was only because it was a shortened season and the Reds didn't have enough time to get to their signature collapse in the second half. All the while having a player who left your team 15 seasons ago be the fourth highest paid player on the roster. That, ladies and gentlemen, is ridiculous. Roger Goodell talked yesterday. He had two important things to say. Number one, and a brief follow-up that we won't spend a ton of time on. Roger Goodell was asked very pointedly about the firing of Jim Trotter, the NFL reporter, who is known for being the only one inside that organization who did repeatedly ask very pointed questions of the commish. His contract not renewed by the NFL. Yesterday, media members asked him, was he let go because of you? Roger Goodell said, I had nothing to do with that decision. I didn't even know it happened. Let that marinate. We might come back to that later. But the other thing Roger Goodell got asked about was the potential sale of the Washington Commanders. Bum, 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 bum. An investment group, which included Irvin Magic Johnson, put forward a bid that matched Dan Snyder's asking price of over $6 billion to purchase the Washington Commanders. Bum, 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 bum. That was the asking price out of the gate. Madge and some of his friends matched it. Perhaps the Commanders will be sold to an ownership group that is not slimy, corrupt, and inept. Roger Goodell got asked if the investigation by the NFL into the improprieties of the Washington Commanders was going to be impacted by the sale. Roger Goodell said, no. We will put out the reports that we find out about Washington, even if the team is sold. Which is a very brave thing to say after you find out that the ownership put up an asking price and that asking price was matched. And now it looks like the team is going to be sold. It amuses me that Roger Goodell wouldn't announce this before the team was about to be sold. I do wonder if this is perhaps a shot at Daniel Snyder, because it very much could tank the value of the team, right?
Just trying to figure out who you like less, Goodell or Snyder, and which side you're going on here.
You understand how awful Dan Snyder has to be to make me camped up with Roger Goodell in this fight?
And you're still throwing jabs at Goodell on your way to your conclusion. So.
Ain't never going to stop. Lonzo, the enemy of the enemy is my friend, even if he's still my enemy. Roger Goodell could very well tank the market value of the Commanders, if there is a threat that Daniel Snyder could be removed by the league itself, and that threat seems to be looming, perhaps growing. That NFL owners, spearheaded by Jim Irsay, could eventually pull the plug on Dan Snyder and go, dude, you're out.
So why does that make the price go down? Because now they know that they're desperate to sell it. And so
because if Dan Snyder is forced out by the league, he would be forced to sell it. There is no option of, I'm not getting enough back for this, so I'm just going to keep it. If you are forced to sell it, then all of a sudden an audience of which there are a very, 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 very few number of potential buyers. And in a world in which, if a bid goes up $10 million on a $1 billion deal, that's fractional, right? If you have $1 billion, $10 million is nothing. Even though if you have like Lonzo and I, $0, $10 million would not be life-changing. It would be generationally changing, but it's not to a guy like Dan Snyder. So if we know Snyder's getting forced out of the NFL and he doesn't have a choice but to sell, the market value of that team gets driven down dramatically. So I do wonder if this is a calculated move from the commish to do just that, to force Snyder to sell now, to get him out without the NFL having to force him out, which would be a certain kind of look for a organization that is already dealing with plenty of bad looks as it is. I wonder if this was a strategic move from Goodell, but I will also tell you it doesn't have the greatest look in the world. Because it seems interesting that Roger Goodell could have been saying this for months at this point. He could have said when the investigation started, hey, look, when it comes down to it, we're going to release these investigational fines regardless of where Dan Snyder stands in the ownership of this team. But he didn't. He waited until there was another group who matched Daniel Snyder's ownership price, his cost ask. It kind of makes Goodell, even if it was a calculated move to drive down the value just for the sake of hitting Daniel Snyder in the only place he gives a damn about, his pants, in this case, his wallet, not the other side of the pants. Maybe it's a calculated move, but it still looks like crap for the NFL based on the fact that you could have made this announcement months ago. You could have made this something that was discussed months ago. You could have come out and gone, listen, it is important to the National Football League that these allegations of sexual assault, battery, and impropriety, abuse of power, et cetera, these are all things that have created a situation that we as a whole need to address, and we will do so regardless of the ownership status of the team. You waited until Dan Snyder got his offer. He can cash out at full value, and now all of a sudden, you're brave enough to come out. You're brave enough to say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do it no matter what they say." It looks cowardly, right? And your reputation can shape how people view you. If you are someone who is chronically late, and you are late, people will look poorly upon you. That person is chronically late. They are selfish about their time. They are selfish with the time of others. They do not put the weight of the time of others on the same stature that they put themselves. But if you are someone who is never late, you're on time or early to everything, and then you're late to one event, those people are going to go, it's really not a big deal. He's never late. That person's never late. They value our time. This very clearly was something that was the anomaly, the exception, not the rule. Your perception shapes people's opinions of you. And because the NFL has so many image problems right now, I tend to look at every decision that they make through the lens of, this is malicious. This is intentionally bad, because that's just what they do. They don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. And I get the same vibe off of this. When we come back, the NBA's Hall of Fame class has been announced. Not one, but two active head coaches are on the list, as well as my favorite player from my generation. Who's in? Why do they deserve to be? We'll crack those when we come back. Rob Lonzo and you, the Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate.
Cables.
All right, guys, got a live read. Stay right there. We'll be right back. Becky Hammon and current San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich. Pops going in as well. My question about Pops is, and I genuinely love Pops. I love Pops because I think he has done a phenomenal job as a coach. But has Pops tarnished it all because of the fact that after the Spurs kind of disbanded, Ginobili, Parker, Duncan, that elite group broke up, despite the fact that in terms of chemistry, in terms of pure chemistry with each other, I don't know that we'll ever see another San Antonio Spurs team like that Parker, Ginobili, Duncan team, right? That team was organically built of a bunch of dudes who had exactly zero ego between them.
So you're not throwing the Admiral in there. This was after that.
Yeah. I'm going with the Duncan generation.
Okay. Because there was crossover there.
There was a bit of crossover. The very end of Tim Duncan, or the very end of David Robinson and the beginning of Tim Duncan, there was some crossover. But that group of Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, that era, was organically the best team, maybe not most talented, but best team I've ever seen.
Still remember there's a Tony Parker Ginobili commercial. And I can't, all I hear is Manu from Tony Parker.
By the way, I love Manu Ginobili. Ginobili.
I think Popovich just called him up and said, "I'm going in," and they said, "Yes, sir."
Pops is I love Pops. I think Pops is a great coach. But my question is,
listen, you say all that. Is that the guy you want to work for? I mean, yeah, he used to get results. They haven't won in a while, but still.
I'll tell you why I love Pops.
Is that the guy you want to work for?
I'll tell you why the answer is yes. While Pops, I absolutely think is this is the way it's going to be done kind of guy. Pops is also the cat that will jump up to defend his guys faster than anybody else, right? When you can fall on either side of the discussion, but when the BLM movement was taking place predominantly in athletics amongst the NBA, Pops was not only the guy that had his guys' backs when they spoke out, Pops was the guy who got out of the way to let them speak out. I have respect for Pops the same way I have respect for Dabo. When a lot of other coaches were kind of trying to tighten the screws a little bit and keep their names out of that mouth, Dabo was letting his guys organize marches and rallies on campus and put their voice out there. Regardless of how I feel about Dabo as a coach, Dabo, the guy, earned a hell of a lot of respect from me for that. Pops is in that same boat. When Becky Hammon, who is also going in alongside Pops, very fittingly, when Becky Hammon started being mentioned as the potential first female coach in the National Basketball Association, it was Pops who said, "Why don't you go coach the Summer League team? Why don't you go cut your teeth coaching Summer League?" That's a Popovich decision. He made it. When Becky was being discussed in the national media, Pops was always the first one to jump out there and go, "Becky Hammon is one of the brightest young basketball coaches out there right now. Somebody needs to pick her up as a head coach." And when she went to the WNBA, Pops was the guy that celebrated her before everybody else. If you do right by Pops, Pops has got your back. It's very Nick Saban, very Dabo Swinney in that aspect. Don't care how you feel about me if you ain't one of us. I got my guys' backs. Have a lot of cracks about Nick Saban, the Nicktator. But if you're a Bama guy who goes out there and busts it, Nick Saban will have your back. Same with Dabo at Clemson. I respect that in a coach. I love that in a coach. I think more coaches would be more successful if they did that. That's why when we've talked college basketball, I have said how many times in today's world of college basketball, men's or women's at every level, players sign up to play for a coach and their culture, not a school and its culture. Coaches that have their players' backs, that treat them with respect as more than just a player, who let them have their own voices and their own personalities, are going to do better than other teams. I criticized Jim Larinaga earlier, but Larinaga's in that group. Look at the Miami Hurricanes. Look at Isaiah Wong and the guys down there. This is a team that's got a hell of a lot of personality, and they are building because of that. Pops is that cat. It doesn't hurt that he's got a handful of rings to go along with it. I love Pops. But this list of players, Dirk, Dwayne, Paul Gasol, and Tony Parker, all four very deserving. Usually there's like one guy on there that I'm like, I don't know, he's kind of in that Eli group of like right on the cusp, and I just don't think he was quite there. I got no problem with any of these four guys going in.
Don't throw anything at me, but how old does it make you feel?
Very significantly. The fact that I have a Dirk Nowitzki jersey that I purchased while I was an adult and he's going into the HOF is killing me right now. Dwayne Wade, maybe, I would say amongst the top 3 shooting guards of all time. 16 seasons in the league, 3 championships, 13 all-star selections out of 16 seasons played. Dirk Nowitzki, 6th on the NBA's all-time scoring list, 31,550 points after playing 20 seasons with the Mavericks, a one-team guy, one of the greatest power forwards to ever step on the court, won a title in 2011. Paul Gasol spent time with the Grizz, the Lake Show, the Bulls, the Spurs, and the Bucks. Obviously, most well-known for his time with LA, won a pair of titles, teamed up with Kobe in 2009 and 2010. Pops, the NBA's all-time leader with 1,363 wins, 5 NBA championships as the Spurs in 99, 03, 05, 07, and 14. And Becky Hammon, a 6-time WNBA All-Star in 03, 05, 6, 7, 09, and 11, guided the LV Aces to a WNBA title and are the betting favorites at plus 120 to repeat as champs this year. There is not a single dude or chick on this list who does not deserve a spot in the hall. Love these. Love this class. Love this class. Love Dwayne Wade. Love Paul Gasol, maybe the most unselfish player on a list that includes Dwayne Wade. Just think about all the good teams and the few great teams Paul Gasol was on. And when you think about those teams, you think about Kobe. You think about everybody but Paul Gasol. But Kobe Bryant, many times before he died, said that Paul Gasol was maybe the best teammate he ever played with. Not player, although he's certainly in the running for that, but one of the best teammates that he ever played with. I think the thing I love about this list the most is that it might be overwhelmingly the most unselfish group of Hall of Famers I've ever seen. Dirk Nowitzki was a scoring ace, no doubt about it. Dirk Nowitzki, 6th all-time on the NBA scoring list. Could put the brown thing and the round thing as good as anybody else. But Dirk Nowitzki was an assist guy too. Dwayne Wade, maybe the best shooting guard, position, not active shooting, but maybe the best shooting guard in the history of the NBA. And Dwayne Wade was known for making good players great and great players excellent. Love that about that guy. And again, Pops was always a dude who put his players out front. Becky Hammon could be in the news every day going, I deserve better. I deserve a shot at the league. I deserve a head coaching job in the association. She could be in the news doing that every day. But instead, what is she doing? She took the job offered to her in the WNBA. She's kicking everybody's ass in the process. Instead of saying, I deserve a shot, she's going out there and proving that she deserves a shot. Proving that she has the coaching acumen to be a championship caliber coach and doing what she can do to move that needle so that when the next opening comes up, it's not just lip service that Becky Hammon's being considered, but she will actually be considered. And by the way, if Pops does decide to step away and call it a career, because the Spurs are, let's face it, a rebuilding team right now. If Pops decides, you know what, I'm just too old for this crap right now and walks away, I would not at all be shocked to see Becky Hammon in consideration for that role. Not just because she's proven she's good enough, but if Becky Hammon gets the gig, guess whose cell phone number she can have it number 1 on the speed dial to call up anytime she's got a question? Pops. You keep him in the back pocket. The Spurs could make a move where Pops goes, you know what? Don't call me. I'm on retirement for the rest of my life. But I think he would stay in touch with Becky, which means you not only have a coach who's proven a championship acumen in Becky Hammon, but you keep Pops in the organization as an advisor to the head coach as well. That seems like a great idea. Like a really good idea. Hall of Fame class is good, man. Very good. All right, let me get one more story in here before we go to Twitter trending topics. I've asked you guys in the past, like memorabilia-wise, what's your favorite piece of memorabilia from your school, right? And we've gotten some really interesting stuff. I had a guy a number of years ago on my old station who was a Bama fan who said that he owns to this day a clipboard that was carried by Bear Bryant. Said his dad was a trainer, a manager for Bears team back in the day, and that Pops picked up one of Bears clipboards and kept it, passed it on down through the family. He says, I got a clipboard that Bear Bryant used when he was coaching the Crimson Tide. I've heard some great memorabilia stories. There is an LSU fan, actually a couple of them, according to WBRZ out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that decided they had some memorabilia that they wanted out of Death Valley, Baton Rouge, out of Tiger Stadium in Death Valley in Red Stick, Louisiana. This group of men, in order to gain the memorabilia, Lonzo, broke in to LSU's Death Valley Stadium in order to remove the memorabilia from the stadium. Now, if I told you they broke into the stadium to steal memorabilia, some of the things I would say they probably took are what? Like a goalpost wrapper, a couple of sideline pylons. Maybe they got down into the equipment room and took a couple of jerseys.
Nah, take some dirt.
Cut some grass up that Ed Ogeron didn't eat before he left. Sure, those are all things I put on the list. That is not what these LSU fans took out of Tiger
Les
Stadium.
Miles ate the grass.
Not Edo, Les Miles. That's right.
Yeah. And Orgeron
my own joke.
did something totally different. So, I mean,
Ed Ogeron's big on down in Destin, Florida with the
them ladies.
them Florida ladies. All right. I did not know when I lived in Destin that my chief competition for the lady friends was going to be Coach O. You know, I got a condo down on the beach. I got a liquor cabinet in there. We can come on down. We got a hot tub. We can roll down to the beach, get on the jet ski. Don't got to take a run that morning.
You ever wonder how many times he beat you out?
I mean, I got to assume he beat me out at least, 22 dozen times. I said there's Coach Ogeron. These LSU fans did not steal cleats or a helmet or grass and dirt off the field or an end-zone pylon or goalpost wrapper. No, friends. These LSU fans decided there was something much more valuable in their taste. They broke in, Lonzo, and they stole $1,500 worth of beer out of Tiger Stadium.
All right, that's a beer run. It's not a memorabilia run.
In fairness, at stadium pricing, that's probably what? A 12-pack?
You got to tell me on that. I hear it's pretty expensive, though.
Probably a 12-pack of beer. They went into the stadium, and in an act that, frankly, I understand, instead of going to the equipment room or the locker room or wherever else, they went straight to the concession stand.
Were they already imbibing before they made this trip?
There's
just guessing.
No world in which the answer to that isn't yes, right? Guys, plan.
I got, you know what? There's a lot of beer. LSU.
Sunday morning, we head down to Tiger Stadium around 3 a.m. Campus security will be light. We clip a fence. We get inside. Right? Then what, Billy Bob? We go steal some helmets out of the locker room to put up in the living room? No. Better than that. Oh, we go down to the trophy room, see if we can't lift a couple of bowl trophies. Those will be unique, right? No. better than that? What's better than that, Billy Bob? We go down and try to find an old Billy Cannon jersey to bring home? No. I'll do you one better. Boys, get the few Bud Lights. The cans are purple, man. We go in there. We steal 5 cases of LSU Bud Light bottles and bring them back to the dorm. We will be kings of Baton Rouge. What a concept here. You break into the stadium. You have access to all the memorabilia, and your decision is, let's take $1,500 of LSU branded Bud Lights. Like, you can't just go buy those from the freaking Circle K.
I'm just trying to figure out, how in the world did these guys get caught?
LSU campus police caught a group of college-age males carrying cases of beer on Sunday morning outside of Tager Stadium. The men fled when they saw officers approaching them. The officers reviewed stadium footage that showed the same men loading the cases of beer into a black pickup truck. The officers tracked the truck to a campus dormitory residence and found the owner in the dorm. They asked for permission to search the room, were granted permission, and found the missing cases of beer. So the answer as to how they got caught, Lonzo, is the cops saw them.
Here's the thing, though. They go down in fraternity history if the fraternity doesn't get expelled from campus. So, yeah.
Let's be real. If they would have busted in, taken 1 case of beer out of the stadium and went back to have a bender that night, they'd have gotten away with it. And they would have had a story for the rest of their lives. The night we stole beer from Tiger Stadium.
So was it a scavenger hunt? I've been on one of those in fraternity before. Maybe that's what it was. Where you win the whole thing if you do this one thing.
I don't think the seniors sent you to rack up the entire stadium's beer supply, man. Could be wrong. Take a break, come back, wrap up the Wednesday edition of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. I mean, I go Legends if they don't get caught, right?
So
1,500, take 2 cases, sprint to the truck, get the hell out of there.
So our fraternity, for the scavenger hunt, you won if you could steal the Ronald McDonald out of the playground. And it's one of those huge metal ones. If you could steal that, you would get. So that's why I'm saying, when you said fraternity, that makes me think that this is some sort of fraternity dare.
I mean, it's a strong possibility.
As most of you know, I have never drank, but I was at those parties because I was required to be when I was pledging. And I will tell you, Westerville was still a dry town. I believe it still is. They still had keg parties on campus. So do kegs just not exist anymore? That's why I'm saying I think it was a dare, or it was some sort of pledging thing.
As most of you know, I have never drank today, and
allegedly,
not yet. Oh, I will this evening.
By the way, we do see you on Twitch. It's
we see you, Young Toke.
just
or
yeah,
Toke, Young Toke.
Yeah, the thing that he or she got is pretty cool.
That is a great piece of memorabilia, by the way. The Space Game in 2019 on the jersey, there was a patch for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing for Neil Armstrong. I have the patch that was on a game worn jersey. That's dope, dude. That's a great piece of memorabilia. I absolutely love that. And by the way, while you're on the Twitch page, do us a favor, like, share, subscribe. We do this every day, and every day is more ridiculous than the last. You're welcome. Like, I have done some ridiculous things in the name of keeping the party going with the boys.
No, not yet.
And I'm not even saying that young dumb Rob in college wouldn't have snuck into Argonauts Stadium to see if I could swipe a sixer to take back to the dorm and have the most refreshing beer of all time. I am saying I would have swiped a sixer, not $1,500 of cases of Bud Light.
You see Steven's comment.
Senior prank around here was to steal the cow off the top of the bilo. Tell me you live in the country without living in the country.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought. There's nothing more South Carolina than that. Not that that's a bad thing, but, you know. What you in for, boy? Tried to steal a cow off the bilo. Almost had that heifer off there, but the udders got caught on the roof. Heifer is the proper term for a female cow, right? I believe that's a heifer, right? I'm asking the Florida guy who's ignoring me.
Say that again. Sorry.
I said heifer is the proper term
Yeah,
for a
that's the term
female
for- yeah,
cow,
as far as
right?
I know,
Okay. So, I mean, help me out, people. It is a heifer, right? I just want to see how many times I could say heifer, I suppose. How big was the pink elephant, Stephen? Kevin.
I don't even know what it says yet.
Kevin, come on, dude. You went to that place again. You went to that place. You sometimes go so far over the line, you can't see the line anymore. It's just, dude. Yes, they do, because they have large trunks. Thank you, Kevin.
Luckily, you can save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto. Now that's something to make noise about. Just not constantly. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company coverage provided in service by affiliates and third-party insurers. If your yard needs some love,
Wow. Okay, so that's pretty big. On a double axle trailer, it was 20 feet tall and 10 feet long, and it was pink. Dial's a big elephant. Sunshine on my shoulder makes me happy.
From the Ingalls Market Studio.
Upstate, 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
All right, it is time for Twitter Trending Topics, where I tell Rob what is trending. He tells us why. The first thing that's trending is his boy, Logan Paul.
Which one's he? He's the wrestler, right?
He's the one. He's the one that's actually good at his job.
So they showed up I'm so mad because he's good at the wrestling.
He is. He's
entertaining at the
very
wrestling.
good. Probably got a shot to steal the
Yeah.
show on whichever night he's on this
I'm
weekend.
really mad about that. And as we saw with Cody, Seth Rollins can put on a decent match with a broomstick. So like he's got that going for him. I did love the moving graphic for WrestleMania where Logan showed up to promote his WrestleMania match in like a generic hoodie, just like a hoodie. And I hate him because that's exactly what I would do.
The reason why he is trending is after WrestleMania, his contract is up.
I saw that. Now, he has said a number of times that he wants to go back to boxing. And let's be real, boxing will pay him more than wrestling will. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him go back, do another couple of pay-per-view fights in order to stack the bank account back up. But I also would not be shocked to see him back. Now, I think WWE got what they wanted out of him, right? They got his YouTube channel with, 10 million, 13 million followers to buy into WWE. And if you get even 1% of those people to stick around, you've picked up, 1.3 million fans, whatever it is, that would stay with you.
Yeah, he's had several wrestlers on there, which is the only time I've ever watched that, because when the wrestlers were on there.
I mean, they both benefit off of it. It was a relationship that worked out. I could see him stepping away for a couple of years to go back to boxing and then, come back to ride the high again.
All right. I'm not
I
going to
hate that he's good at it.
I'm not going to do that thing where I say I hate to stick on wrestling, but I am. Hulk Hogan is trending.
Brother.
You're going to love the reason why.
No, I won't.
Yeah, you will.
No,
You
I
absolutely, I guarantee you're going to say, Lonzo, you were right.
All right. If it's the reason I want it to be, here's what I want it to be. Last night, does it have to do with basketball?
No.
Damn it. Okay. So last night, the Pelicans and the Warriors played each other. and Draymond Green, who is a punk ass dude, came down after he got called for a
he's
charge.
all right if he's on your team, though.
No, he's a punk ass dude. Committed a charge on Herb, my guy for the Pels, and then when he's getting up, kicked Herb in the head, very clearly intentionally, because he moved his foot in that direction. Did not got called for a foul. Then on the, I think the ESPN postgame show, somebody sent them a GIF of Draymond after getting called for a charge, and the GIF was Hulk Hogan dropping a leg on a dude. I really wanted that to be the reason why, so that we could all talk about how big of a punk bia Draymond Green is.
Yeah, what you just did. But the real reason why is 35 years ago, I Am a Real American video debuted.
I'm not going to lie. About 3 weeks ago, I walked out to center ice at a Bits game to do Chuck a Puck and had them play that song as my walkout music. It's pretty solid.
Whatever you think about Hogan.
It's a great tune.
And then the video is great.
It's a great tune.
It's kind of corny. Yeah.
Not strumming a half-sized electric guitar. So good.
You say a half size. That's a normal size. It's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it, friends. That's it for the show today. When we come back tomorrow, you know what tomorrow is, Lonzo? You know what tomorrow is?
Fight Club.
Fight Club! WrestleMania
I
breakdown.
have a headache. I couldn't yell.
And oh, by the way, it's also baseball's opening day. But like WrestleMania stuff, you know? Baseball divisional projections and prop bets and WrestleMania. Talk all tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. Yes, Draymond Green is a punk. He always is a punk. He will remain a punk, and I can't stand him. That's a fact. You're welcome. Thanks for coming by. Glad you enjoyed the show. We do this every day from 9 to noon Eastern Standard Time. Come back. Hang out with us again. Every show's better than the last.
By the way, I don't like Draymond either. I just was
Draymond
pointing out.
sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
I'd fight Draymond.
Would you?
I'd fight Draymond.
Draymond would tear you
He'd
up.
smoke me, but
Yeah.
I'd get one good shot in. Thank y'all for watching. You're all spectacular people. We appreciate you greatly. We will see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again. Have a lovely rest of your day. If you are a Swamp Rabbits fan, I will be hosting Coach Lordo's Coaches Show tonight at Hall of Fame Sports Grill in Greenville. I will be there about 6. Show starts at 6:30. So if you're a hockey fan, come on by and see us. I'll be there. Otherwise, see you back here tomorrow. Bye.
That's a low blow fight. I mean, you don't fight
fair.
him that way. You got to go low blow and run.
I left the mic on for that because it's worth it. Bye.